So Harry and Meghan have apparently just bought a house in Portugal, and people are speculating as to why they may have purchased this house. There's some people saying that they purchased this house as an investment, but then there's others saying that apparently there's people that have come out that say that they haven't been happy with their life in the United States, or at least their life in the United States hasn't been what they thought it would be. So that's what I'm going to be looking at today. I'm going to be looking at the astrology chart to look at, first of all, could we see an official move happen? I mean, just because they buy a property doesn't necessarily mean they're moving. And then also we're going to look at, is the reason or the justification to move in the chart, and then when could we see a time frame of a move? Now I'm going to be looking at Prince Harry's chart specifically today. So if you're interested, make sure you stay and please like and subscribe to my channel for more astrology readings. I do a lot of astrology videos on the royal family, but I also do monthly updates on astrological transits. And then I also do other readings on celebrities and topics of interest. I practice Vedic sidereal astrology. So the signs may be different when you see me doing readings. If you're interested in a personal private reading, check down below for details. And also, I just want to remind you all that this reading is for entertainment purposes only. All these statements about Prince Harry or even Meghan Markle, these are all just my interpretation of the astrological energies and the astrological karma. So let's go ahead and talk about the questions here. Hopefully you can see it. My picture isn't blocking it. But like I said in the beginning, it's been alleged that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have purchased a house in Portugal because life in the US is not what they thought it would be. We're going to be looking at, is there contemplation of a move? Is there disillusionment, at least on Prince Harry's part? That's what we're looking at. And then when could this move take place? And then there's another theory, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned it, that Prince Harry could be using this as a stepping stone kind of move, like the move closer to the UK, and then kind of have a closer base to the UK to maybe try to get back into his royal duties. So that's another theory as well. So we're going to take a look at that. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the planetary period, or what's known as the Vimshatari Dasha in Vedic astrology. And so let me get out my stylus here. So the Vimshatari Dasha, it's calculated by the computer program I use. But it's very important because essentially during periods of your life, you're in a certain astrological period where a planet essentially rules a certain time period of your life. So right now, Prince Harry's in a Rahu Mars period. And we're going to talk about the dates of this period. It's between March 2024 to March of 2025. So about a year there. So we got March 2025. He's in this Rahu Mars period. So we're going to be looking at, we're not going to focus too much on Rahu, even though Rahu, by the way, it can represent a foreign thing. So moving abroad would be something that Rahu would definitely encourage. We're going to be looking more at Mars because the sub period is usually stronger than the major period. So let's look at that in the chart for a second. Let me clean that up so we can kind of zoom in on Mars here. So Mars, so we got March 24 to March 2025. Mars is in the 12th house. The 12th house, it does represent foreign countries, but I do want to point out just being in the USA is technically, being in a foreign country to Prince Harry. So he's already living this 12th house experience. So this definitely would align with this idea of moving to Portugal. This would just be a just shifting things. We're just shifting over to another foreign country. So that's definitely supported by the astrology chart, living in a foreign country. Whenever you have a planet in the 12th house and you're running that planetary period, it's going to be either a spiritual period or something where you're living abroad. The other thing that I want to point out with the Mars period is Mars is the karaka of moving. So, for example, like when people have Mars in the fourth house, this is just an example, but they may be somebody that moved a lot in their life. or their houses have been under constant renovation. That's what Mars is known as a karaka of. So he's in this Mars period till March of 2025. Again, there can be this restlessness that's causing him to want to move. One of the things Mars does is it's like hard to stay in place. It's hard to stay rooted in a place. And so you just have this angst and this antsiness where you have to move. The other thing to point out is Mars is with K2. So K2 is all about it usually creates disillusionment and apathy. So let's go pull up the slide because I wanted to kind of put up some bullet points for you all. So Rahu Mars, that's what we're really talking about. Now, Mars in the 12th house, foreign lands, we talked about that. Mars with K2 is a sense of restlessness. And then K2 can represent a lack of feeling rooted in a place. And that can be one of the major problems that's occurring with this particular situation. And the problem would be, feeling like, he maybe had the best intentions of moving to the US. Maybe he thought it would be a lot like the UK, but now he's finding out the reality that it's not quite exactly the same. And it might be a little more difficult to make friends than he thought. So, this idea of being disconnected and this idea of disillusionment is definitely supported by the astrology chart. In fact, when you're running a period of a planet in the 12th house, it can represent feeling like you're exiled. So, feeling like you don't have a lot of friends, feeling like you don't have a lot of supporters. Now, people may argue, of course, they have some supporters, but, he may not feel close to any of these supporters, or he may feel like there isn't a lot of commonality with the people that they're associating with where they live. So there's a sense of just disconnection. There's definitely a sense within the astrology chart of wanting to move. I could definitely see this not really wanting to settle down kind of energy there. The next transit we're going to be looking at. So we looked at the Vimshatari Dasha period. The next period we want to look at is I want to bring up the Mars transit, or sorry, the Saturn transit. I called it Mars. Saturn transit. Saturn is transiting the sign of Aquarius right now, and it's been transiting it since January of 2023. Saturn usually takes about 2.3 years to transit a sign, so it's quite a long transit because it's one of the outer planets. But it's about to end its transit on March 29th, 2025. So this is very relevant to this reading. This next 4 or 5 months is really influenced by Saturn being in the third house over here. Oh, and I didn't write it, but three. Okay, third house. Now, the third house is interesting because it's our sense of like our day to day thinking, how we interact on a daily level. So, when Saturn's in the third house, what can happen is you start seeing things very pessimistic. Your thoughts might become kind of darker during a period of Saturn being in the third house. So, it can be hard emotionally when you have a Saturn transit to the third house. And let me bring that up on the slide here. But Saturn in the third house can bring difficulty to the mind, the thoughts, and experiences in everyday life. And I'm saying in the slide, for example, can make someone very pessimistic. They can't make friends because they might be negative with this transit. So, for example, some of the exile, and a lot of you will probably agree, some of it may be self-imposed. So, for example, he may be complaining or very negative or pessimistic about some things, and it's making it harder to make genuine friends because people want to be around somebody that's more upbeat or more cheerful. So there can be this idea, but I do feel like this is a temporary thing. I don't feel like this is necessarily a permanent thing with Prince Harry's personality. Remember, these transits, they're temporary. So it's not like this permanent negativity, but with all the circumstances in the planetary transits, it's bringing up this pessimism right now. Now, of course, it's going to bring up the issues with Prince William, with the siblings, because third house represents siblings. We've talked about that in former videos. It also can bring up mental fatigue and also a lack of confidence. He may not feel as confident being in the US as when he was back home, where he felt more secure, he felt more comfortable, more supported. He doesn't feel that. So this would definitely correlate at the bottom of the slide. I say with the idea that life in the U.S. is not what at least Prince Harry thought it would be. I'm pretty sure Meghan Markle knew what life in the US was going to be like, even though there's been a lot of changes over the last few years. I'm pretty sure they knew what was going on there. Um, and okay, I'm going back on the slide. I wasn't sure if there was another slide after that. So let's talk about the Rahu transit really quick, because this is also um, kind of interesting. You know, whenever the fourth house is being activated in your astrology chart, it can show a very strong motivation to move. So we got the Rahu transit, and the Rahu transit that started back in October of 2023. And that's going to last till May of 2025. You notice how everything's kind of like changing right around between March and May is when there's big changes happening for Prince Harry. And likely, if we look at Meghan Markle's chart, there's probably big changes because, you know, they're both connected karmically. Now, when you have Rahu going through the fourth house, it can always indicate a move, especially to a foreign country under unusual circumstances, is usually what Rahu represents. So there's definitely encouragement to move with that sort of transit. So let's go pull up the slide, talk about that for a moment. This Rahu transit. Now Rahu, when it's in the fourth house, it can create a sense of boredom with the place that you're currently living. That's kind of how it creates the discontent. Like you're just bored. You're disinterested in the area where you're living. So Rahu creates this disenchantment where you want to make a change in your life. So if a lot of you wonder how Rahu operates, that's one of the ways Rahu operates. Just creates this discontent with life how it is. You know, like you're not happy with the things the way they are, but it can be a tremendous motivation to make meaningful changes. So the planetary period and transits indicates someone who is restless and doesn't want to stay put. So, you know, regardless with the planetary transits that are happening, this is kind of interesting. If it wasn't the USA, let's say he was in Canada right now, hypothetically, because of the planetary transits, it likely would have been the same result with all these transits going on. The Mars in the 12th house, you know, the Rahu in the fourth house, Saturn in the third house, there still would have been some discontent there, even if he would have moved to a country outside of the USA. So that's kind of interesting to point out. Now he's going to be changing major periods in March, the very end of March. I would almost consider April because it's at the very end of March, like the 30th of March. So pretty much April 2025, he's going to be entering a completely new phase of his life. And this is a whole new big chapter. There's really big changes happening for Prince Harry in 2020, mid 2025. So the Vimshatari Dasha, he's going to be going from the Rahu Mars period, and he's going to be transitioning to the Jupiter mahadasha, which is a whole new larger period called the mahadasha, which is 16 years long. So this is going to be a very long new period. But you'll notice there's a lot more optimism with this period, by the way. The Jupiter period is going to be a lot better for Prince Harry and his relationship with the people. It's going to be it's actually going to be a better transit or a better astrological period, even though people feel like, you know, they're never going to forgive Prince Harry for what happened. I feel like a year or two from now, people will be thinking a little bit differently of Prince Harry. Let me go and pull up the slide on that. So he's going to be in the Jupiter. That's going to be about April of 2025. Then he's going to be there for the next 16 years. Of course, there's going to be sub periods in there. But when you begin a Mahadasha, always remember you're in the first period is going to be Jupiter, Jupiter. So he's going to be in that period for a couple of years. So Rahu rules, Jupiter rules the first and fourth houses. And I believe I'll have to look at it again. Jupiter's in the first house. Yes, Jupiter's in the first house over here. Okay, so it's in its own sign of Sagittarius, it makes it stronger. So let's go pull up the slide again. So it's very much focused on first and fourth house when we're looking at this Jupiter Mahadasha. Now, the thing is, I'm more inclined to think of this Portugal thing as not a permanent move whatsoever. Okay. I am more aligned with these people that are speculating that Prince Harry may be using this Portugal move as a stepping stone to get closer to the UK. I do feel like that's the intent there because when I look at when he enters the Jupiter period, it's more aligned with him actually fully coming back home to the UK. And I feel like that's still my prediction. I feel like he is going to go back to the UK and live there. Okay. And maybe he will have a Portugal residence, or maybe he'll move to Portugal and then he'll just end up going to the UK so often it becomes sort of like he's not really in Portugal. You know what I'm saying? Even though he's technically there. Let's go ahead and pull up the slide one more time just to see if there's anything else there. So some people have speculated that the move to Portugal is a move to be closer to the UK. This could be accurate. I believe this to be accurate. There could be a plan to use this as a stone to fully move back in the or UK, not UT. I see a full return to the United Kingdom. I believe that this could happen as early as mid 2025, even though these kind of things don't usually happen right at the very beginning of a Mahadasha. So we might see that in 2026. Okay, we could see a big move. Now, the causes of the move, I do feel like there's a sense of patriotism. There could be a lot of changes in the royal family that take place that motivate this desire to come back and help out, or, from his own point of view, where he feels like he's helping out with royal duties. Remember, the royal family, with a lot of the charts that I've been doing for the last 6 months, this is a period of crisis. This is a period of a lot of turmoil. We got was it three of the royal family members have Saturn transiting the eighth house right now, which is a period of emergency, a period of change. So we're still in this difficult transit for the next 4 or 5 months for three of the royals. So this definitely may influence Prince Harry's decision on what kind of moves he's going to be making. I see the Portugal thing as a stepping stone. So anyways, let me know what you think down below in the comments. I appreciate seeing your comments. Thank you very much. And I will see you all in the next video.